Chapter 7. Can you be away from home? Not all driving jobs require you to be away from home for long periods of time, but quite frankly, the better paying ones generally do. Among drivers, it's common knowledge that when it comes to trucking, the more you're home, the less you'll earn. That makes complete sense when you think about it. I mean, you get paid to drive, not take picnic lunches with your family. There are exceptions to this more home equals less pay rule, but they're few and far between and are usually reserved for drivers with lots of experience, which, needless to say, you won't have. Now there's something to ponder. Needless to say. That saying has always fascinated me. If it's needless to say, then why did I just say it? Anyway, let's discuss who makes a good candidate for a trucker. Needless to say, I do.
All right. Enough already.
As far as truck driving goes, being single is the ultimate situation. As a single person, there's no reason to be home on a regular schedule, no long periods away from the spouse and kids, and if you can stomach it, you can live out of your truck to virtually eliminate any housing expenses. Many single truckers do this and are able to sock away piles of cash. Heck, you may only be home a few days a month anyway. This tactic is especially effective on a short-term basis if you need some fast cash. When single folks do need to get out of the truck for a few days, they can either head home, if they even have a home, stay with friends or family, stay at a hotel wherever they happen to be, or arrange with their company to stop in any city they'd like to visit, which is one of the huge perks of trucking. We'll discuss this more when we cover home time. Keep in mind that staying in mom and pop's house to save money also means that your social life will be seriously hindered. Whether you can handle it or not all depends on your relationship with your family and how long you plan to mooch from them. If you don't need to pile up cash for any reason, or you just need your own space, you can rent a small apartment to come home to when you've got some time off. You could even get a hotel room for your home time. Even if you got 5 days off every month, a hotel would still be cheaper than paying for rent, upkeep, and utilities on an apartment.
Well, congrats to the single people. Now, what about us married folk?
The evil overlord and I have 4 nephews, the oldest of which is my older brother's boy, Cody. Because he lives with his mom in another state, I rarely get to see him. The other 3 are, in order of being popped out, Jacob, Jared, and Joel. As you can probably tell, their mother, Jennifer, who is the evil overlord's little sister, and their father, Jason, have a thing for the letter J. But I digress.
What is this, a family album? Where in the heck are you going with this?
Bear with me. Unlike our firstborn nephew, we get to see the rambunctious 3 J's pretty much any time we want to. What that taught us is that there are enough children in this world without our contribution, no matter how fun the conception process would be. Now, don't get me wrong, I love having kids around. I just like being able to return them to their parents when they get obnoxious. That's just one of the benefits of unclehood. Play and have fun until they get crabby, then send them packing back to mom and dad. After all, a middle-aged man can only play WWE SmackDown for so long. Rug burns hurt. Not to mention how the 100-pound kid butt dies off the couch right onto my gut. Ugh. Responsibility is highly overrated anyway. Okay, finally to the point of all this talk about kids. The point is that the closest a couple can get to being single is being childless, just like us. A couple who hasn't yet started a family could really set themselves up for a great life if they did it right. Now remember that a brand new team operation can make $80,000 to $100,000 per year. A young couple could drive a truck for a few years and save up enough money to pay for a house and a couple of cars and anything else they might want before having kids. Like lives, for instance. Kidding. Just imagine how good life would be without a mortgage and car payments. I actually think this is one of the better uses of trucking. I wish we had done it that way, but you know our story.
How about us older folks?
Yes, they want you too. Actually, they really want you. Many carriers are now targeting the older generation. Everyone knows that the baby boomers are reaching retirement age. It's just that some of them don't want to retire yet. The trucking industry is salivating at the thought of a group of older adults who are looking to start new careers. Trucking companies need drivers, and these retirees are looking for something new and different. Gee, that sounds like a win-win situation to me. Besides, let's face it, the older generation as a whole has a leg up on the younger crowd when it comes to safety, experience, work ethic, and company loyalty. At least for the most part anyway. Empty nesters are also prime candidates. Those pesky kids have finally left the house, and mom and pop want to do something a little different with their lives. Go for it. Not rid of the munchkins yet? Keep in mind, I said to be single or childless is ideal, not absolutely necessary. Many truckers have families at home. I'd even ventured to say most do. I've got absolutely no statistical evidence on that due to the fact that, quite frankly, I'm just too lazy to go look it up. How's that for honesty? But I do hear an awful lot of driver's lounge conversations revolving around the wife and kids. Driving a truck probably means that you won't be home every night, depending on the job, and you'll likely miss some baseball games and dance recitals. Still, if you're making $20,000 a year at the local mill, you may not even be able to afford Little League or dance class for little junior and juniorette. Then again, a higher paying job isn't everything, and you may only get one chance in a lifetime to see your kid reach over the fence to steal that home run from the school bully. Or how about your adorable 4-year-old daughter trying to execute a pirouette in a bumblebee costume, complete with little wire antennas? Could anything be cuter than that? Yeah, you'd better think long and hard before you decide to miss out on this stuff, because unless your boy makes it to the major leagues, you won't see it again. And if you ever see your grown-up daughter wearing a bumblebee costume, well, then her career probably involves a stage and a pole, and you've just seen a horror that will be seared into your brain forever. If you're persistent and sometimes a bit lucky, you may not need to sacrifice your entire life away from home to drive a truck. You may be able to find a driving job that will get you home every night, every other night, or every weekend. There are all types of driving opportunities out there to be had. We'll be discussing what your driving schedule options are in more detail later on. Just keep in mind that generally, the more you're home, the less your paycheck will be. That's the trade-off. It wouldn't exactly be fair for a guy to be home every night and make just as much money as you do staying away from home for 2 or 3 weeks, now would it? This is why I said in the beginning that only you could decide whether trucking is right for you. I know I've said this a few times already, but it bears repeating. Only you can decide if your time away from home is worth the money. As a matter of fact, that's largely what trucking boils down to. Do you want to be home more often, or do you want to make more money? See now why I say it's ideal to be single? You won't have to make all the sacrifices that someone with children would. If we had decided to have children early on, I know the evil overlord would have never gotten into trucking, and I probably would have had to think about it really hard. It's likely that she would have transformed into the mega evil overlord and nudged me in the right direction, which of course would have been whatever direction she wanted me to go, aka stay home. But with all the debt we had, she may not have had a choice in the matter. Sometimes life just may not give us much of a choice. If bill collectors are calling day and night and threatening foreclosure on your house or garnishing your wages, giving up some home time to make sure your family has somewhere to sleep should be an easy decision. Sometimes, desperate times call for desperate measures. Over the years, I've talked to a few husband-wife teams who have had school-age or younger children, but were in so much financial trouble that they decided to leave the kids with a trusty relative for a brief time so they could make some quick cash. Remember that a team just starting out could earn up to $100,000 per year if they're willing to work hard. That can get you out of a whole heap of trouble. I can hear it now.
Oh, those parents are awful.
Are they? I actually commend them for making that much of a sacrifice just to give their children a better life in the future. Think about it. If your house were about to be taken from you, wouldn't you do anything to save it? I once read where a child psychologist said that kids were much more resilient than we give them credit for. I fully believe that. It'll be much harder on you than it will be on them. To them, it'll probably just seem like an extended vacation at Nanny's house. Now, I'm not saying everyone should abandon their kids, nor am I saying your kids can live without you permanently. It's certainly not a long-term solution for both parents to be gone all the time. But if you're desperate enough, just know that you won't be the first parents to do it, and I, for one, will agree with your decision. As Triumph, the insult comic dog, would say,
Poop on what everyone else thinks.
Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. Being away from home also means that you'll be living out of bags. This is one of the things the evil overlord hated the most about trucking. Every day she had to dive to the bottom of our duffel bags and dig out fresh clothes for both of us. I guess we could have been like some truckers and only bothered changing our clothes once a week, whether we needed it or not. Ew. No thanks. Most days I could hear her mumbling under her breath as she fished out the fresh duds. Quite honestly, I never really understood why it took her so much time, effort, and frustration to gather a few clothes. But then again, I'd wear 2 different shades of navy blue without even giving it a second thought, heaven forbid. Her clothing nightmares weren't just on the road, though. As soon as we got home, we had to start laundry. From then on, the washer and dryer were going full tilt for most of our time off. Granted, we had 3 weeks of clothes to wash. You can save some time if you find an empty laundromat where you can do them all in one sitting. Man, that gets expensive, though. Or maybe if you were a good child, yeah, right, you could get your mom to do it for you. Moms just love to feel needed. Might as well take advantage of it if you can get away with it. Man, using mom. That's wrong on so many levels. You could solve part of this problem if you don't mind doing some of your laundry at a truck stop while you're still out on the road. Many drivers do just that rather than carry enough clothes with them to cover the entire time they'd be away from home. Just be forewarned, those washers and dryers can be quite nasty sometimes, so use them at your own risk. Speaking of that, exactly how do commercial washers and dryers get those wads of gum stuck in them anyway? Do many people stick already chewed wads of gum in their jeans pockets before they wash them? Just wondering. My mind can sometimes be a strange place to dwell. Still, the fun isn't over yet. Once everything was washed, we had to get repacked before we headed back out on the road again. Then there was the shopping to do, loading the truck, etc. Heck, it seems like half the time you're home, you're preparing to go back out. Uncool, man. Uncool. If you're a solo driver, there's yet another way to deal with laundry. Let someone else do it. Now that the evil overlord is at home every day, I can just leave my dirty laundry with her when I hit the road. That way, I don't have to spend all my home time doing laundry from dusk till dawn, and she can wash them in her big black cauldron during her spare time. Man, I'd hate to see what she would say about me if she ever wrote a book. Payback. Big time. Of course, this method requires that you have enough clothes to cover the time you'll be away from home. I usually stay out 2 or 3 weeks at a time, so that's a whole mess of clothes.
That sounds expensive.
Well, not if you do it my way. Buy cheap clothes such as sweats and sweatshirts for winter and inexpensive shorts and t-shirts for summer. Remember that stereotypical trucker we talked about earlier? A lot of truckers really wear jeans, western shirts, and cowboy boots every day. I simply don't understand how they do it. Nor do I understand why. When we first started driving, the evil overlord and I tried driving in jeans but found it unbearable. As comfortable as a pair of Levi's can be, we still found jeans to be way too uncomfortable to be sitting in one position for 10 or 11 hours straight. Heck, we drivers see evidence of this all the time. You'll see a driver open his door and stand on his running board while he buttons his pants back up. Jeez, man. If you've got to undo your pants to be comfortable, what's the point? Not to mention that there's something about driving a truck that seems to attract grease. I don't know how it happens, but I can get out of the truck, walk directly into a truck stop, and find a huge glob of grease on my jeans. I never have any earthly idea how it got there. Anyway, since it was summer when we got into trucking, we went to Walmart and bought a whole mess of cheap shorts and t-shirts. When winter rolled around, we bought sweatpants and sweatshirts. I still get grease on me all the time, but I'd much rather ruin a pair of $7 sweats than a pair of $35 Levi's. Also, when you buy cheap clothes, you can afford to get enough of them to last the entire time you're away from home. I've only had one trucking company tell me that I couldn't wear sweats, but they never said a word about it when I did. Most trucking companies do state that you need to look clean and neat while on the job, but by the looks of some drivers, I'd say that policy isn't enforced very often. Besides, it's entirely possible to look neat and clean while wearing sweats. It's called a washing machine. Use it. I have to tell you here that many drivers in the industry consider sweats a no-no. They don't think they look professional enough. I just have to say that I don't agree. If they're neat, clean, and not bagging off your butt, sweats look fine. Heck, half the time the workers on the docks aren't dressed any better. And as for those drivers that step out of their trucks in slacks and a tie, I just have to say, no one thinks you look professional. You look ridiculous. I mean, think about it. Do you really think office workers want to wear slacks and a tie every day? If they did, why would everyone look so forward to casual Fridays? My guess is if they could wear sweats and an alma mater t-shirt every day, they would. Truckers can, so we'd be stupid not to. Okay, now that we've established that you may need to be on the road a fair amount of time to earn the most money, what do you do with all your spare time when you're not driving? Proceed.